Hello and welcome to the Silver Lining, the weekly geekly talk show where we discuss any number of topics that may have come up during the week. I'm your host, Uncle Silver, aka Silver Greg, aka Greg, whatever you're comfortable calling me. And welcome to you, my co-host, the chat. Always a fantastic time having everybody here to discuss what was ultimately a light week, right? I mean, there was like the one big thing in news, the whole the Apple Epic. I just don't care to talk about that, man. I feel so bad. Oh, I'm sorry. Hold on. I had that muted. I apologize. Thank you so much, Somber, for the in the hunt with the tier 1 sub. Very, very much appreciate that. Thank you. Always a fun way to start the stream off. I very much appreciate that. Thank you so much for that. You're an extremely generous individual, and the fact that you stop in and drop your own sub in addition to other subs is always fantastic. So thank you for that. But yeah, like it was like a light week. Like I asked on Twitter if anybody had anything worth talking about, and I think that's sort of my biggest problem with it's sort of my biggest problem with the idea of doing this. I love doing this show. Doing this is my favorite stream of the week. I love the community days and I love of the regular streams, but this is probably my favorite part because I am a rambler. One thing that I've learned is that I am extremely introvert, and this is true of a lot of introverts, of most introverts probably. I'm very introverted. I don't want to talk a whole lot unless we're talking about something that I like and that I'm passionate about, in which case I ramble. And I love to talk. So this is like my favorite stream for the week. So it bums me out when there isn't a lot to talk about. And I watch other channels. I watch other podcasts and stuff, video podcasts. I like video podcasts. Something about audio podcasts just doesn't do it for me. But I like video podcasts, shows and stuff like that. And I watched them, and then I noticed that a lot of the time I just tune out of certain topics because things are just not interesting to me. Like there was news about the Polymega this week, and which was like a sort of hybrid emulation type system. I don't care. Like, you know what I mean? There's news about the Intellivision Amico. I don't care. You know, it's while I love talking about stuff, I know that I can't talk about something that I honestly just don't care about. There's no passion in it for me to have a conversation about that thing. And then what happens is you get weeks like this where I want to do this podcast type show and I want to talk about things, but nothing happened that I really care about. So it's always kind of difficult. But hello, Let's Play, Sliner, Soda, Latimer, Hero Hyrule, what's going on? I know that a lot of people are over at John's stream right now. John is doing his monthly Q&A, and that's always a real popular one. I was over there for a little while. So I started a little bit late just to sort of give everybody a chance to be over there, because once we start streaming, they all leave John. It's unfortunate. Sorry, John. Listen, I apologize. Is New Earthworm Jim going to be exclusive? See, I remember hearing something about that Latimer, and I just it doesn't affect me. I know that if it's an exclusive, it's going to be a timed exclusive. Someone's going to throw so much money at it that it comes out on another system. Those systems are going to fail. The Amico and the Atari system, and the Polymega's going to probably do well. The Polymega's, but they're so expensive. Because the Polymega, was the Polymega the one that they're talking about like $600 or something? Polymega, $400 is what they're saying. That's not viable for an emulation type system. It's a small niche group of people that are going to buy that, and that small group of people are reviewers and journalists, gaming journalists, content creators. If we bought a Polymega and streamed it, that would be an investment to the stream. Like, you know what I mean? It's more viable to stream whatever games that system plays than it is to play them on the original hardware. And it would be interesting to show off as a hey everybody, this is the new thing, check it out. Like, and then that's it. Like, I feel like the average gaming consumer is not going to pay $400 to $600 for these for these lower tier systems, for these C list systems, B list at best. So it's I don't, and because of that, I just don't have the energy to discuss them, you know. And then the Apple Fortnite Epic Google thing, I honestly I don't care about multi-billion-dollar companies pissing on each other, having some sort of a pissing contest. The funniest thing I thought was that Epic made like an anti-Apple video within a day of all of this happening. Other than that, it doesn't affect me, and not that it doesn't affect me, because a lot of the stuff we talk about doesn't affect me per se, but it's just not interesting. I don't feel like any of the fallout, not the series, from any of those things happening is going to really affect us, right? Like if the Intellivision Amico comes out and fails, we're not going to care. We're just used to it. Like Google's Stadia, we all pretty much assumed it was going to fail. It would have made news if it succeeded. We talked about Stadia too. We talked about Stadia because there was a chance of it succeeding, and that would have made news. If Google Stadia turned into the next big thing, we would be sitting here having a conversation about the future of console gaming. We would be having a serious conversation about, is the PS5 viable? Is the Xbox X viable? There'd be real conversations about those things going on if Google Stadia was a hit. Was a very functional, very popular hit. As it stands, it sucks. It failed. No one's even looking towards replacing it with some sort of other gaming streaming type service like that. So it's irrelevant. Unreal Engine is also getting removed from Apple devices. Latimer, that's the only thing I wanted to look into, and I haven't seen anything else about that. So I wanted to look into the idea that Unreal Engine games are also going to be removed, because that could be a bit of a shakeup. Just some of the whole Apple versus Epic situation. None are in the right, and Epic is only in it for themselves. They're all, but let's play. They're all in it for themselves, right? Like Apple isn't actively trying to make sure that Epic gets a win here. That's it. I made it on time. I really hope that Rumored Direct happens and it's it's a full size. I mean, yeah, that's the Direct rumors have been going around. I generally don't talk about rumors here, but it's always interesting to see if they become something. I feel like the last rumor was sort of right? Wasn't the Indie Direct rumor kind of okay? Stadia isn't viable for people these days. Yeah, it's just not necessary. Is sort of my thing with Stadia, is that it's not the only places. No, because that's not even true. I was gonna say that the only places Stadia might be good for are places where they have trouble getting good internet connections for their online games, but then they would just have bad Stadia connections, so it wouldn't even matter. Yeah, Stadia doesn't. I think Stadia solved a problem if you weren't also paying for the games. If you were paying a monthly fee and you were getting access to a large chunk of these games, and maybe a small nominal fee, right? Like if you had to pay a monthly fee for Stadia, like let's fix Stadia right here. This isn't even the one topic that I wanted to talk about, but let's fix Stadia. We're going to fix Stadia right here. You charge a monthly fee of $10, a base fee, and then for any game that you choose to play on Stadia, you pay another $5 or $10 a month for that game to keep that game active. Most people will beat a game in 1 or 2 months. It's viable for them to say, okay, the monthly fee plus $10 a month, and I can beat this game in a month and probably not want to play it anymore, is worth it for somebody. And then if they say, oh, there's things that I want to keep doing, I want to keep playing the game, I'm going to pay another $10 a month. That's how you fix it. That's it. And then if you want you can still offer the $60, or I would say like $40 as a full price to say, okay, but $40 you get to keep the game, or $10 you rent it for a month. And then on top of that, you still have to pay the monthly Stadia fee, which is $10. That's how you fix it. That's it. But that's Game Pass, isn't it? Stadia could die in a fire. Dragon Tupra, Stadia can die in a fire, and the fire is going to be started by overheating Chromecast devices. Epic's trying to make it seem like they're doing it all for developers. Yeah, they're not. If the payment plan was like Xbox Game Pass, Stadia would be better. Yeah, if it was the same thing, Stadia would be a lot better. And that's the thing. That's what Stadia's biggest selling point would be. Stadia could be exactly like Game Pass. 100% like Game Pass. But the biggest difference could be that you can do it through Chromecast on your TV. Because right now, if you want to play Xbox Game Pass, you either need to be at your PC, your Xbox, which means you bought an Xbox, or your PC is hooked to your television, which not a lot of people do. If you want to play Game Pass games on your big TV is what I mean. If you did that through Stadia, and it was the exact same model as Game Pass, but it came with a device that you put on your television set instead of a full video game console or your full PC, people would be fine with it. A lot more people would have adopted it. But as it turns out, it's pointless. You're paying for Stadia, and you're still paying $60 for every game. There's no point. Yeah, Game Pass is like $10.99 a month, which gets you access to over 200 games. If you like the game, you can buy it at a reduced price, and the price of Game Pass includes Xbox Live. That's it. The Game Pass is the Stadia that works. Oh, and xCloud is okay, so that I've heard of xCloud a million times, and I never knew what it was. So xCloud is just a device that you put to your television, and it plays to your television. So fixing Stadia is just Game Pass. Because I haven't looked into Game Pass too much. I haven't really looked into it too much because I was under the assumption that you have to play it on your computer, and I don't do a lot of PC gaming except for Final Fantasy XIV, which now I'm a little bit hooked on. I really hope PlayStation does something similar. Well, PlayStation aren't they doing PlayStation Plus or PlayStation Now online now? Can't you do that through the website and play it on your computer? I haven't looked into it. I kept hearing that they were talking about it, and I don't know if that's something that they've actively started or if that's what they're going to do. But yeah, I remember hearing that they were going to put PS Now, which PS Now is the PlayStation 1, 2, and 3 games, right? Isn't that the old stuff? That's not the modern. That's not the PS4 games. That's a great service, by the way. If you put all that stuff on PC, that's a fantastic service. I think people would love that. Yeah, I wasn't really. I was very confused. Let me make sure that I'm getting all of this right. PS Plus is the PlayStation 4 service where you can download PlayStation 4 games. Basically, it's the PlayStation Store with the internet service. PlayStation Plus is like the internet service. PlayStation Now is the thing that was on PS3 that lets you buy and download PlayStation 1, 2, and 3 games, right? Yeah, Sony sucks at renaming their service. Plus, I've had a PlayStation 4 for like 2 years now, but I don't do a lot of the online stuff other than the Switch eShop. That's really all I do. Like, I think that's how it works. They should do more. I don't understand why PS Now wasn't on the PS4. I don't understand why. I was so confused when people were telling me, "Oh, that's on PS Now." Like PlayStation 1, I remember I was talking about Final Fantasy Tactics and Vandal Hearts and stuff, and people were Valkyrie Profile, and people were like, "Oh yeah, it's on PS Now. You can download it now and play it, so it's more modern." I'm like, "Oh okay," and I went on my PS4 and I couldn't find anything, and they're like, "No, PS Now is just on PS3." What? Why wouldn't it be on the most modern system? Why wouldn't it all be one store? I don't get it. I feel like I'm doing something wrong. PSN. Am I talking about PlayStation Now or PlayStation Network? I don't know. Why is it so complicated? PS Now is on PS4. You can stream PS3 games and download PS4 games. What is the service for PlayStation 1 games? If I know you can only do it on PS3, but is that also PS Now but a different version? Just call it PS Stream. Honestly, Potato, just call it the PlayStation Store. Oh no, because the PS3 games stream. That's what it is. Okay, so that's what it is. So the PS3 games stream. So yeah, so just call it PS Stream. Yeah, now, Potato, I'm completely confused. I'm totally confused. You could play Killer Instinct while trying Latimer. That's the thing that has drawn me towards the idea of checking out Game Pass, is that Killer Instinct is up there. Hey, Mr. Sonic. Yeah, because I know that Killer Instinct wasn't available online for a while, for forever, really. It was an Xbox exclusive, so I only played it the one time over at John's when we did an SGB video for it. PSP. Am I talking about PlayStation Plus or the PlayStation Portable? I have no idea. Soda. I'm confused and I'm saying it. I feel like I'm trying to explain the movie Total Recall. And I to this day, I'm still not entirely sure what's going on in that movie. And I just watched that movie like 2 months ago. And I'm still not entirely sure what's going on. I hope they add DLC functionality to PS Now. Faye, I hope they change the name and call it PLC so we can be even more confused. Or PSC, PlayStation content. There we go. It's like trying to explain the Zelda timeline. Which Total Recall, by the way? Okay, the original one. I can't answer that. The original one. I never saw the remake. That was with Colin Farrell and Kate Beckinsale and somebody else who's famous. Yeah, I never saw the remake, which is weird because Total Recall is one of my favorite classic Schwarzenegger movies. Running Man is my favorite classic Schwarzenegger movie. Running Man is my favorite Schwarzenegger movie, I should say. But yes, better than Terminator. What about the PS9? Oh my God, the PS9! I can't wait. I can't wait for the Spheres. Running Man is glorious. That's a movie I just watched maybe a month ago. I watched it on Twitch, actually, one of the channels that I watch, which I haven't seen in a while. I hope they're still around. They probably got taken down though. Yeah, that channel used to show like anime and stuff, like old anime movies, and then they showed a bunch of Schwarzenegger movies in it, and I haven't seen them since, so I hope it didn't get taken down. I don't want to hear any mocking Nintendo and their naming conventions when Sony exists. Yeah, I know. I remember a media teacher saying Running Man was the old Hunger Games. Yeah, it really was. Did anybody not see it? Or is anybody here not familiar with Running Man? Running Man is one of my favorite is my favorite Schwarzenegger movie, but it is also a fantastic concept. I don't know if anybody's not familiar with it. That's a movie that's never been redone, other than like the Hunger Games. But yeah, that movie's never been redone. It technically was. Yeah, it really hasn't. I'm unfamiliar. So okay, so Running Man. The idea of Running Man is that it is the future. I forget what year it is, but I think we've already passed it. The Running Man was a TV show in the future. Is a TV show in the future that has convicted criminals running for their literal lives from what are called stalkers, which are basically the killers in the movie. And then they have characters, right? It's like a wrestling event where the stalkers have different characters. Like there's Fireball, who has like a flamethrower and stuff. There's Dynamo, who shoots electricity and sings opera music. Like Buzzsaw is like the hockey themed guy, but he's got a chainsaw and stuff. So then that's the idea. But the show this is basically the plot of the movie. The show is starting to suck. Like the ratings are getting really bad. So they need somebody who is a challenge for the stalkers. So they find this guy, Ben Richards, who he was involved in some sort of a military event where people were killed, and they manipulate the footage of what happened to him. So he is a criminal. They arrest him and they call him a criminal, and they arrest him for the murder of all of these people, like innocent people. And then they doctor up the footage and stuff. So they throw him into the Running Man show. They set him up and then they throw him into the show because they think he's going to be a challenge. But then it turns out to be this whole other thing. There's this whole other bit of story going on where the network is actually evil and they're manipulating everything. You know, there are these two previous winners who supposedly made it out, and it turns out they didn't. They were actually killed, and they're inside the game area, which you find out later in the movie, so spoiler. But it's just an interesting concept. It's very much Smash TV. If you've ever played Smash TV or Super Smash TV on the Super Nintendo, that's what it is. But you get actually killed. But then people bet, they gamble on the show as to which stalker is going to get a kill, and then at one point they start betting on Ben Richards. They start betting on the runner to get the next kill. So it's a wild show. It's a fantastic show. It's a fantastic movie. I love it. I'm just kind of surprised that in that exact format, that movie has never been remade. It's very strange. Watched Terminator 1 and 2 recently. War Against Humans and Skynet is in 2029. It wasn't originally. It wasn't in 2029. I'm trying to think. Wasn't it? It wasn't 2019, was it? When did Skynet? Hold on. When does Skynet become self-aware? I thought it was. No, it was in 1997. Was the first time. Yeah, 1997 was the first time. There's a book. The book is a bit different. The contestants are paid volunteers, and the stalkers are trained bounty hunters. And in the book, he dies. Somber. In the Running Man book, he crashes his helicopter. Like he escapes on a helicopter, but then he crashes it into the what's the broadcast? What's it called? IBS. He crashes it into the tower and kills all of them. I think he kills Killian, which was Richard Dawson's character. Wasn't there one scene where they kill an old lady because they ask her who's gonna win, and well, no, I don't know if that's in the book. Maybe in the book that happens. In the movie, that's a scene though. She's like the popular old lady that comes to all the tapings, and the host really likes her. He always hangs out with her, and then she's the first one that says, I think the next kill is gonna be Ben Richards. And he says, like, oh, you can't bet on him. He's a runner. She's like, I can bet on whoever I want. I can choose whoever I want. And I choose Ben Richards. That boy's one mean motherfucker. It's such a good movie, man. That's an extremely quotable movie. If you watch that movie, there's clips. Was it a helicopter? I thought it was a helicopter. I never read the book, but I remember reading. I remember reading a YouTube, not a YouTube, a website that had like movie differences, and it was like movies that you know, and then what the differences were. That's where I learned about how the Little Mermaid in the book, she gave up her life and became Seafoam in order to save Prince Eric or whatever. Like, oh, excuse me. Like that's where I learned that stuff, and that was one of the ones that I learned. It was Running Man, which was because I love that movie. And yeah, I thought it was a helicopter. Anyone here seen Galarians? The only thing I know of Galarian, I've never seen Galarians. I remember playing some of the PlayStation game, and I don't know if that's related to it or not. I just remember there was a PlayStation game called Galarians. Yeah, Skynet. I'm sorry, Skynet. I'm pretty sure it was 97 because it was August 4th, 1997. When Skynet went online. But it wasn't until August 29th. This was the original Judgment Day. It wasn't until August 29th that Skynet became self-aware. And soon after it became self-aware, when they tried to pull the plug, Skynet launched its missiles against Russia, knowing that the counterattack would annihilate its enemies, and 3 billion human lives were lost in Judgment Day, which ended up happening later, which was the third movie. Which, hot take, don't leave. Don't run away when you hear this hot take. I've said it before. For the storyline of Terminator, before they ruined it, before they ruined it with 5 and 6, and even 4 was a little trashy. For the storyline purposes, 3 is the best movie. Terminator 3 was the best movie. It made the most sense. It tied everything together. It made Judgment Day real, which makes it, because Judgment Day has to be real for the future to be real, for a Terminator to get sent back to the first movie. It has to make sense. At some point, Judgment Day has to happen. Terminator 3 makes the most sense. Maybe it wasn't the best movie, but the story, the things that happen, the way Judgment Day happens, all of it makes the most sense for the Terminator mythos before they destroyed it with Terminators 5 and 6. Because even Terminator 4 fits into the mythos. Terminator 4 fits into the timeline of the movie. It was just unnecessary. When you watch Terminator 4, it was a sort of pointless movie. But for the mythos of Terminator, 1, 2, and 3 make sense. They work. Judgment Day is inevitable. Judgment Day has to be inevitable for that version of time travel to exist. There has to be a point where it gets sent back. And the way it makes, you're going to lose subscribers. The way it makes sense is that Skynet gets made. One way or the other, Skynet gets made. Skynet gets made, sends a Terminator back in time to kill Sarah Connor. It doesn't work. But the parts that are left behind are used to make Skynet. That just moves Skynet up. That makes Skynet go online on August 4th, 1997. That's why that happened. But when that is stopped, Skynet goes back to the original timeline, which is that Skynet is made in secret. No one is able to stop it. There's no information about it. And once it goes online, it does exactly what it was going to do, and it launches nuclear attack, and it kills 3 billion people. And the only person that is there, that is on the microphone, ready to help people, ready to tell them and explain what's going on, is John Connor. That's why a non-military person ends up being the hero of the war against the machines. That's it. It works. All of that works perfectly fine. Even the fourth movie works, where you have these military leaders that don't want to believe that John Connor is some sort of savior, but they believe that as the military, they should be the ones in power. 4 even works in the timeline. What does not work in the timeline is 5 and 6. They don't work. It just doesn't work. 6 actually pisses on the entire series. I'm sorry. I'm getting heated. I'm I'm getting worked up over Terminator, and Terminator isn't even really relevant anymore because they killed it, because they annihilated it in the first 5 minutes of the 6th movie, apparently, too. Was 6 the time travel movie? 6 was the one where apparently sorry for spoilers, apparently at the beginning of 6 they killed John Connor. It's like the first thing that happens in the movie is that a Terminator shows up and kills John Connor. Yeah, Dark Fate. What am I even here for? The first scene in the movie is supposedly that they're in a tropical place somewhere, and a Terminator shows up, and I think it's a Schwarzenegger Terminator, and he shows up and he kills John Connor. Wow, thank you. You just wasted the entire series. It makes literally the 5 movies that came before it irrelevant. Sounds like people complaining about The Last of Us 2. All this Terminator lore is making my head hurt. It's a math. See, it's somber. This is why I say that. This is why I say 3 is the best one. Terminator 1 and 2 were a paradox Because if you stop Skynet from being built, Skynet is not built. Skynet doesn't create Terminator. Skynet doesn't send a Terminator back to the first one. It doesn't make sense. Terminator 1 and 2 on their own don't make sense. 3 makes them make sense. That's why it works as a trilogy. Those 3 movies as an individual trilogy work. 4 fits, but it's just stupid. Good movie, by the way. Terminator 4 was actually a decent action movie. It just was a pointless Terminator movie. And then 5 and 6 start to undo all of the lore. It starts to undo all of the timeline from making any kind of reasonable sense. And I understand we're talking about time traveling cyborgs wrapped in human flesh that go back to kill the person that kills them. I get how ridiculous it all sounds. But there's some kind of logic that can be applied to it. That's what we look for, right? That's what we look for when it comes to movies and TV shows. We're not looking for realism so much as we're looking for logic. But where does a TV show fit into the lore? The TV show, the Sarah Connor Chronicles, the TV show assumes that 1 and 2, this is where things start to unravel. The TV show operates under the impression that the first and second movies happened, and then that's it. And then there's the TV show. It does not include the third movie as part of its canon, and then the other movies came after the TV show. Hold on. I only know Salvation from the arcade machine, which was a good arcade machine. Playing Smite, so going to be in the back. Playing with your avatar characters, I hope. Does Sarah appear in the beginning of Terminator 1, or is she already dead? No, Sarah Connor? Sarah Connor's in Terminator 1. Sarah Connor's the target in Terminator 1. She's the one that they're trying to kill. John Connor is the target in Terminator 2. And then in Terminator 3, the target is John Connor's lieutenants because they can't find John Connor. But then over the course of the movie, they find him. So so he becomes the target. But Sarah Connor is the target in the first movie. Great movie, by the way. Fantastic movie. So we're talking about Terminator. No, we're gonna jump to the main topic here, but Terminator 5 was the time travel one that looks stupid. Is it? No, SCC, Sarah Connor Chronicles. Hey, Kia, Sarah Connor Chronicles was made after 3 came out. But the lore that it goes by is that 1 and 2 exist and that 3 does not exist, which I think is wrong. I think Terminator 3's lore has to exist for it to make sense as a trilogy. I think the movies make sense with 1, 2, and 3. 4 is just unnecessary, and 5 and 6 undo any sort of logic that was involved in the movies. Again, not realism, logic. That's a big difference. That's an interesting topic. We'll have to discuss that on a show one day. All right. I do have a topic, though. I do have one topic today, and then we will, after this one topic, we'll open it up to viewer discussion, Q&A, if you want to ask any questions or discuss anything. But I do have one topic for today, and I don't have any pictures for this because this is more of a theoretical topic. Every once in a while, we do the fun topics where we're not talking about a news story. We're talking about a sort of hypothetical thing. I basically ask you a question, and that's what we're going to do right now. I'm having trouble getting into capitalism. No, we only have an hour and a half. An hour, really. I'm having trouble getting back into Persona 5 because Persona 5. Hey, Buckeye. Wow, Buckeye. I feel like I haven't seen that name in a long time. Wasn't it Cortex? Did you change your name? Were you Buckeye Cortex? I'm having trouble getting back into Persona 5 because whenever people talk about Persona 5, they talk about how long the game is. Oh, I've been playing it for months. I've got 150 hours logged into it. I've been playing it for this. I'm doing all of this. There's so much of it. There's so much of it to do. So much of this. So much of that. It feels overwhelming. It feels overwhelming to say that that game is so long. And I say that it feels overwhelming, understanding that I have played hundreds of hours of Call of Duty Warzone, and I am now starting Final Fantasy XIV, which is going to take thousands of hours of my life. I don't question that. Yeah, that was me. I can never decide on a name. So what I wanted to ask you was, and I feel like we're probably gonna have to break this down by genre. How long is a good length of time for you for a game? If somebody says, hey, this RPG is 200 hours, does that make you want to play it more or less? If somebody says this Metroidvania is 50 hours, does that make you want to play it more or less? I feel like, well, Ryan, yeah, I definitely think there's going to be a lot of outside factors. I think one of the biggest factors is probably going to be genre. When you talk about competitive games, most of the time it's very difficult to put an hour number on that because they're competitive. I stopped playing Splatoon 2 maybe a year after it came out. Maybe not even that long. It was probably even sooner than that. I have about 700 hours logged into Splatoon 2, understanding that I haven't played the game in forever. So that 700 hours was within about the first year. Call of Duty, Warzone, I probably have a few hundred hours easy logged into that game. Final Fantasy 14, I've probably already got 60, 70, 80 hours logged into that game. So I'm curious to see if there's a sort of threshold that you hear about, that somebody says, I played this game for 300 hours. Would you say, no way? And the first thing I want to address, and because RPG seem to be the big one, is that this is probably a genre based sort of thing. And Tate, you bring up an interesting point, and that's another thing that I want to talk about, is that we're talking also about era. If I would have told you 80 hours for an RPG on the Super Nintendo, you would say, wow, that's so much content. There's so much I can do. If I say 80 hours on a modern day game, that's low. That's low. Any Skyrim player will tell you that 80 hours is nothing for that game. Any Persona player is going to tell you that 80 hours is nothing. So it's interesting. I think that there's a difference in era also. I think that is very significant. Let me go back to some of these. I'm on New Game Plus of Persona 5, and I don't think I can ever go back to Max Out Confidants. I didn't really play it, so I don't know. I played Disgaea games. I have lost the concept of time. Hawk, you're right, because I don't think I beat Disgaea 1, and I played it for a while. But I did a lot of the side. I started doing a lot of the side dungeons and stuff, and I think that was my downfall. For an RPG, 50 hours. But Kia, if you talk about an RPG nowadays and you say 50 hours, a lot of people will tell you that's short. Some people will tell you that that's very short for an RPG. Depends on if the game is good. Depends on how interested I am with genre game. RPGs, 60 hours. There are some good RPGs that are 20 and 30 hours. Absolutely. And Mendez, you raise a good point. I am not talking about length of time as a reference to how good or bad the game is. There are fantastic RPGs that are 20 hours. There are fantastic RPGs that are 200 hours. So it's not really a measure of quality when I talk about the length. What I'm looking for is you personally. If somebody hands you an RPG and says, hey, this RPG is 10 hours long, is that off-putting? I can tell you right now, that's off-putting for me. If you tell me that it's an RPG game and you say that it's 10 hours long, that's off-putting for me. That's a little too short, especially if you're going to try and charge me $40 for the game. It's a little too short. But then when you say 1,000 hours, it feels too overwhelming. It feels like I can't get involved in that. I got to go to work. I have a job. I can't get involved in a 1,000-hour RPG. And I'm going to load up Final Fantasy 14 after this. RPGs don't need to be 50 hours. Chrono Trigger is a perfect example of that, but Chrono Trigger is from a different time. Chrono Trigger is from a time when a 50-hour RPG was pretty chunky, and it's not nowadays. Nowadays, it's really not. So long as there's enough content to keep me invested in playing, I really don't care about the length. Now, that's interesting, Faye, because I think that And this is why, this is a thing with MMOs. No, you can keep putting new content, new stories, new characters, but eventually that particular game, that collection of systems, of mechanics and stuff, that eventually can get boring. You could still be adding new stages to Splatoon 2. You could add a new stage once every 2 or 3 months, and eventually you'll stop caring because the fundamental build of the game is what gets boring. And that's what happens with MMOs. MMOs add stuff all the time, but without significantly drastic changes to the battle system, to the mechanics of the game, it still gets boring. If it's an open world game and I'm bored, I want it to end already. Hold on, let me jump back up here. And hello everybody that I have not said hello to. I apologize if I've not said hello to everybody. Hold on a second here. I prefer shorter games a lot more since I value replayability. Longer games are a lot harder for me to replay. I don't mind an RPG
your
or
ideas
visual
are
novel being like
intriguing
60
to me,
hours,
and I wish
but
to
everything else
subscribe
I
to your
prefer
newsletter.
under 20 hours. Tay, thank you so much for the follow. Very much appreciate that. By the way, we got a couple of follows in here. I think because I was on John's stream and I was joking around, we got some follows in here. So if you people are here, Columbo, the Bone Father, Scrambled Stitches, and Hattori Velveteen, if you are here, I appreciate the follow. Thank you for that. Yeah, some people prefer shorter games, and we're gonna stick to RPGs right now. Because I think RPGs, other than something like MMOs, I think RPGs are usually the ones that are expected to be the longest. And I'm not including competitive games. I'm not including stuff like Overwatch, League of Legends, Call of Duty Warzone. I don't include that stuff because that stuff is sort of different. That is constantly rotating, and even Splatoon kind of counts that way. That is constantly rotating playability. That is fundamentally, that is different. It's not like there's a campaign for Call of Duty Warzone and the campaign is too long or too short. Competitive games like that really rely on how much you're interested in the competition aspect of it. I might be one of those. Really do not care about how long a game is. Rather, if it has a reason to be its length. Chrono Trigger I felt was perfect being under 20 hours, which Chrono Trigger was not built as a 20-hour game. Chrono Trigger was built as a 40 to 60-hour game. And the same could be said for the Mummy Demaster 6-hour campaign. However, when anything is over 30, I really want to ask, why is it that long? Yeah. So 30 hours. Sliner, so what you're saying is 30 hours is sort of your cutoff point. 30 hours is when you start to question whether or not this game is worth playing. If somebody tells you that this game takes 60 hours to beat, you will start to question whether or not it's worth it. That's a good metric for it. That's a good metric for this conversation is, at what point do you start to think, do I really want to get invested in this? Is this really going to be worth that much time? You know, when somebody says here, this game is $10 and it's 5 hours to play, that's a fine time investment. That's an okay time investment. Most people will agree that 5 hours is less than your average gaming session. For a lot of people, their gaming sessions, especially on the weekends, can go 10 hours long. They wake up and they do some errands and stuff, and then they start playing games, and then boom, it's 10 hours later. So if you're talking about a 5-hour game, that's well within somebody to play for one day. But when you talk about 100 hours, that's a commitment no matter how you slice it. Even if you played continuously for 4 days, you still technically wouldn't be done because that's 96 hours. Gonna head off and play Fall Guys, and I can't have multiple things going on at the same time. Enjoy the rest of the talk show, everyone. No problem. Thank you, Sarah Sondox. I very much appreciate that. I'm jumping back up here. I'm trying not to miss messages here. I think it has to do with the discount for Outside the Motivation. Like when I started my Pokemon run, I had over 100 something hours on it. But thanks to my little cousin at the time, erased my files, so I never picked it up again. Yeah, well that's a whole different conversation. Actually, that's an interesting conversation. Think about having an example. I used to play the OG Animal Crossing game for the GameCube. Used to love it, but then I finished everything and it started to become a chore and to just boot up. I find New Horizons better because it gets content. Yeah, New Leaf was like that. I played New Leaf way longer than I played any of the Animal Crossing because it got content updates. Which New Horizon, I think I burned out on because I'll play it again when new content comes out. The time for this topic is great. I'm currently playing Indivisible, and I'm at 40 hours game time. I don't remember how much game time it took for me to beat Indivisible, but that's a great game. That game was very much worth it. That's a game I'll go back to. At some point, I will go back and I'll replay Indivisible. Mario and Luigi are pretty short RPGs. I prefer shorter RPGs, but I do like Persona. I don't mind a long game as long as it's fairly good most of the time. If I'm in for a long game around the middle or 2/3 of the way in and I'm losing interest, that's when I complain. Final Fantasy VIII, that's a good one that was like that. I think if the length of the main story of a game is around 20 hours and the side content is where the extra hours come from, I can choose the length of my game is the best length for an RPG. That's a good, yeah, Somber, you're absolutely right. I think the most important aspect of this is main story. How long is the main story campaign? Because the side quests can eat up a lot. You know, when you talk about Skyrim. Oh, by the way, we passed 40,000 views on the channel. Excellent. Yeah. Oh, hold on. Excellent. No. Woo! 40,000. Next stop, 1 million. Oh wait, we got a Gonzaga suit to celebrate. I love that. I'd rather have a good tight story that takes 20 hours to complete instead of an open world game where I'm wasting 20 hours of my total 100 hours of gameplay wandering locations. Yeah, Aiden, one of the things that I've always argued for, especially with open world games, is make it very clear where to go and then make the optional stuff very obvious. I was playing Skyrim, and because I was a late adopter to Skyrim, there was a bunch of DLC for it. I got caught up in some story and it was like 15 hours of gameplay, not realizing that I had moved off of the main story. They did not make it very clear that I was doing side content. I thought I was on the main story. Make it very clear what there is to do and what is side quest, and I'm a lot happier. Somewhat. I don't mind being invested in it, but it needs to keep my interest. If my friend said, "Hey, can we play Final Fantasy 14 together and try to 100% it?" You're not, if you 100% Final Fantasy 14, you are a mad lad, because that's an MMO and that's gonna take you a year at least. But there are people that have 100%ed WoW technically, so then a good reason to ask me to join him on the Shadow of War could be terribly monotone and similar. Red Dead Redemption 2, not an RPG. That's fine. It's an adventure game, so it counts. Tales of Symphonia has such a long story, interesting setup, and so much to keep you occupied with things keeping you engaged. Then I'm okay. Okay, so yeah, Tales of Symphonia is one that I started and stopped because I know that game is notoriously long. As much as I love it, Persona 3 burnt me out by the end. I've never had a problem with game length. I've always had it's always about how much I like the content. I'll mostly drop a game at post if it can't keep me interested. 30 hours is my max, but I also just got into Final Fantasy 14. Yeah, yeah, that's MMOs. Final Fantasy 14 and WoW in particular are sort of the they're sort of the exceptions to all of these things. I think it depends on how repetitive in the game is the gameplay loop. For a second, I thought you were talking to me. For a thought you were talking about. Oh, yeah. I'm going by profile names here. Oh, I'm guessing you're Aiden. Ghost of Tsushima does that. Gold markers are story, white markers are side quests, and every point of interest has a special icon depicting what it is. Final Fantasy XIV does that too. Final Fantasy XIV makes it very obvious what is part of. It's actually called the main scenario quest line, or MSQ, as those in the know call it. But yeah, Final Fantasy XIV. My problem with Final Fantasy XIV though is that in order to unlock certain dungeons, you need to do these side quests that are marked. They're marked a certain way, so you know exactly what they are. And I've avoided most of them, so I'm doing just fine with that. But yeah, Final Fantasy XIV actually does a good job of making sure you understand. Like, okay, all of this stuff is all of these little people with exclamation points are side quests. The person with the exclamation point that's wreathed in fire, that is your main storyline quest, your main scenario quest. So what's a sweet spot for you in RPG time? 20 to 30 hours for the main story is good for me. Including cutscenes. I do like cutscenes. I am a fan of cutscenes. I feel like they slow down and give me an opportunity to pay attention to the story a little bit more. 20 to 30 hours is a sweet spot for me, with extra stuff I can do. 20 to 30 hours, probably 30 hours, with optional bosses, with optional dungeons, with fun mini games. I think I'm sad because sometimes I play games and I realize that the art of the mini game has disappeared. So I think that's a good sweet spot for me. Anything long, I love Final Fantasy Tactics. Final Fantasy Tactics is an amazing game that when I grind out my characters, it usually takes me about 30 to 40 hours. Vandal Hearts, to me, is a wonderful tactical strategy game that is half the time. And I think that they're both remarkable games. Time is irrelevant to me as long as the pace of the game is good. I could play a 40 to 60 hour game, but if it wants me to play 10 hours doing the same thing, yeah, you're Atomic, you're kind of right. There is a lot to be said about the pacing. If there is a lull, like somebody said earlier, if there's a lull 2/3 of the way through and you've got me doing the same thing over and over again, that's boring. And now all of a sudden, immediately the game got too long. Bravely Default. I'm sorry if I ruin Bravely Default for anybody right now, if I spoiler it out. There is a point in the game where there is some sort of time loop, and you have to do the same sequence of events, the same bosses, over and over and over again, like 5 times. Immediately, when I got to that point in the game and realized what was going on, I immediately knew I was probably never going to play this game again. Probably never going to play this game again. Yeah, I hate the repeating part. Couldn't finish the game because of it. I did. Snore. I went through and I powered through because I knew that there was a timer, because they specifically say that there's like 6 universes left and you're in the first one. And so I knew there was a time limit on it, that there was a number limit on it. But once I got to that and I got through it and I beat the game, I was like, I'm never going to play it again. I'm never going to bother again. It's Soda. Here's the problem, Soda. Bravely Default is good. It's a good game. It's got good characters, a good story, a good combat system. Everything about it is great. But when you get to that part, the whole thing grinds to a complete halt. And then when you go to try and replay the game, all you think is, I'm going to have to go through that part again. And it ruins any replayability for the game. If I enjoy a game, length does not matter to me at all. Well, Iron, what I'm trying to question is, when somebody's introducing you to a game, when they say, hey, try out this game, it's X amount of hours long. Is there a number that you hear that you're like, that's not going to do it for me? I love Metroidvania games. If you tell me a Metroidvania game takes 200 hours to beat, I'm probably not going to play it. There's a good chance that I'm probably not going to play it. That for a Metroidvania game, that's just too long for a story. The story would have to be something unbelievable for me to play a 200-hour Metroidvania. It's just too long. Hold on, let me jump up here. No RPG is worth the salt unless it has an array of mini games. Absolutely. Where are the mini games, man? Where's Triple Triad? I mean, I know where Triple Triad is. It's in Final Fantasy 14. I can't wait to play it. Yeah, and that sucks because the final boss. Yeah, Nate Cobra. The final boss in Bravely Default's unbelievable. It's such an amazing experience to play that final boss, and I'll never see it again. I'm curious if Bravely Second is any better. I don't know. I was so put off by Bravely 1, I never tried Bravely Second. Final Fantasy, the finale of P5 did that for me. Too long, too hard, too much grinding. I am familiar with 2 or 3 of those things. Now, as long as it's interesting. Have you done Symphony of the Night randomizer? Have not. I have not tried. I really need to get around to some of those randomizers because the randomizers are actually really fun. What do you think of Final Fantasy X? I haven't played it. Final Fantasy X, great game, good length. I like it. Ghost of Tsushima is pretty good if you main path it. It would be pretty short, but you can't skip cutscenes, which I'm okay with. So I won't be replaying it anytime soon. Wait, Hawk, can you skip cutscenes if you already have played the game? See, there were a lot of old games that used to do that. That's a little trick for older games where if you have never played the game, you can't skip the cutscenes. But if you have a completed save file or something on your memory card or whatever, then it would let you skip them. So that's an old trick. So maybe there is no New Game Plus in Ghosts. Well, not New Game Plus, just the fact that it recognizes that you have a completed version of the game. Some games do that. But that's an old trick. Would you say Bloodstained was cutting it with its length? I loved it, but it was getting kind of long. A little bit. Snore. Bloodstained started to feel a little repetitive. And I think that was the problem. I think if Bloodstained's story carried me a little bit more, it would have been fine. It did feel like towards the end, it got a little long in the tooth. When I went to the last area in Bloodstained, I remembered thinking, I kind of wish the last area was the last area. Let's see. It makes me wonder how Bravely Default 2 will do if the scars of the original are still fresh on our minds. Earthbound and Mother 3 are those comfy RPGs that I can always go back to. I won't get into it because one day the Earthbound, the Mother fans are going to come after me. I know it. Not too long, not too short, and I'm an emotional wreck by the end of both of them. Vandal Hearts. Vandal Hearts was like that to me. Vandal Hearts had a lot of decent emotional moments that was a good length of time for the game. I think Pokemon can be a slog to go through, but that depends on how invested you can be. I think Pokemon's most dangerous thing. Luigi mentioned that. I think Pokemon's most dangerous thing is the collectible status, and I think it's if you go into Pokemon with the gotta catch them all mentality, it can get boring. If you just play through the story and like the Pokemon that you like, level up the Pokemon that you have, maybe pick some of your favorites, because that's how I play Pokemon. I don't catch them all. I have Pokemon that I like and Pokemon that I think are cool looking, and I make them work for the game, and that's it. I don't worry about, I gotta fill up my Pokedex. Yeah, you have a living Pokedex. You have a living Pokedex, which I applaud you and scowl at you at the same time. I thought that too, but you can't skip even on a new file. Okay, yeah, that sucks. So replayability, Ghost of Tsushima, right out the door. For me, it's also important the type of things an RPG asks of you. Playing Final Fantasy is very different than playing Persona. Very true. Will randomizers eventually become a feature in mainstream video games, or is that an indie exclusive at best? I would say indie exclusive at best. I think indie exclusive at best. Accursed. The reason I say that, I don't even actually know. You know what? I would say indie at best, but I would say indie is not likely to do it because the problem with randomizers is there's a lot of balancing that needs to go into it. For anybody that has played, we used to do Link to the Past randomizers here, and I did one a couple months ago. For anybody that's played them, there's a lot of balancing that needs to go into a randomizer, which means that there is a significant amount of active involvement in the development of the game that needs to go into it after the game has been released. Because randomizers can easily create a scenario that is unwinnable. You can easily get to a point where you have found all of the secrets that are available to you, but none of those secrets allow you to progress further into the game. Randomizers seem to be something more that external people do. That they take a completed game and say, hey, we can mix these elements up and still make the game beatable. When you do Link to the Past randomizers, you can actually download you can save a fact page that tells you where all the items are in case you get stuck. But when the Link to the Past randomizers first started, there was tons of work that was being done to make sure that the game was beatable, because it is possible to get dead seeds in that. Originally you can. Now they've worked out all of the dead seeds for the most part, so you can't get a bad seed. But I like the idea of indie companies building them in. I just don't think AAA companies are going to bother building that sort of thing into their game. Yeah, that was probably the issue. I still love the game. I'm so proud that I backed around $300 to the game. Wow, really? I have a living dex. Why is Digimon better? I don't know. Pokemon has bored me to tears as the years go on. I mean, I did it back in Gen 5, so it was much more manageable. Yeah, trying to make a living dex now and something like Moon and Ultra Moon and Ultra Sun is probably not a lot of fun. Roguelikes roguelikes are randomized dungeon. They're basically randomized maps, but they don't really randomize the items and stuff. And a lot of roguelikes, like the one roguelike that I played a ton of was Wizards of Legend. That doesn't have progression items. So the only thing that's really randomized are the enemies and the maps, the shapes of the maps. But you don't have to worry about collecting progression items or collecting traversal moves or anything like that. So there's no order that can be mixed up that gives you a dead game. It's not possible in those games. Roguelikes generally are maps, maybe the items that you get, but they're not really progression items. You know, there isn't a roguelike where a double jump is needed to finish the level, but the double jump is a randomized item. You know what I mean? If double jumps are a thing for whatever reason, that's something that your character is going to have. You're never going to because then theoretically you could enter a stage that has a double jump, a mandatory double jump. You don't get the double jump item, and then the game is dead. So they're not really the sort of same thing. When you talk about Metroid, you talk about Super Metroid. These are games where you need missiles to get through doors. You need super missiles to get through other doors. You need bombs to get through holes in the floor. If you don't get certain things right off the bat, you're gonna have a dead game. I played several Metroid Prime 2 randomizers and got stuck a few times without save warping. Now, Accursed, here's the thing. Some versions of some runs, there are seeds in the Link to the Past randomizer where save quitting is relied on. Save warping is relied on. There are some versions of it. They're very rare, as far as I can tell. But there are some versions of it that the items that they'll give you will require you to enter the Dark World, for instance, from a certain point, and then save quit so that you start at a certain point in the Dark World. The thought of a Kingdom Hearts 2 randomizer scares me. Hey, probably with Gorilla, what's going on? It's not that bad. There's a lot of options that can make it more manageable. It won't have to worry about getting random bosses if you don't want them, since it's optional. Yeah, Bloodstained Randomizer had some issues with preventing progression. Yeah, so Sphere, if that's true, if it's true that progression could be locked in a Bloodstained Randomizer, the developers would have to actively keep updating that game to make sure that that doesn't happen. They would have to remove those seeds or ensure that certain items will always appear in certain places. That would have to happen. Some devs may not want to keep maintaining that sort of attention on their game. That's why randomizers, I feel like, work well with outside groups developing the randomizer, because they're going to be more passionate about, the Link to the Past randomizer people are still looking for bugs and glitches and mistakes and dead games, and then they're still adding sprites. They're still adding new Link sprites, because you can change your Link sprite, which is one of my favorite features. They're still adding game modes. They're still tweaking game modes like key sanity and stuff like that. Which is where they randomize all of the keys. There's the entrance randomizer where you have to find the entrances to different dungeons. That's why I don't like Solitaire. I don't like playing a game to find Dragoon. That's an excellent comparison. Solitaire is a game that if you play it incorrectly, you can end up with a dead game, and it's possible to end up with a dead game through no fault of your own. The cards could just be buried a certain way that it makes it impossible for you to win the game. Theoretically, depending on the rules that you play. The randomizer I did for Kingdom Hearts 2 was mostly about random items, abilities, and where you get them. There's also optional choice for randomizing bosses as well. So yeah, that's pretty standard. That's pretty standard for a randomizer, randomizing the items that you get, the abilities that you get. The only problem is, with Kingdom Hearts, are there, because it's been forever since I played Kingdom Hearts. I only ever played Kingdom Hearts 1. Are there what I call traversal items? Is there something that's a double jump or you fly, and then these are required? Because if they randomize the stages and everything, and you need these flying abilities, these different movement abilities, and then you don't get the right movement abilities, you could end up with a dead game. Which sucks, because I like Solitaire generally. Oh wait, well, Kingdom. I mean, I'm sure Kingdom Hearts 2 randomizer is out there, that people are streaming it. There are, but you don't ever need to do them really other than one dungeon. So yeah, Snore, the only requirement that could be needed for a randomizer would be that you will always get this item before you will always get that level. That's a requirement that you need to make. I'm more of a Minesweeper kind of guy. Yeah, I die in Minesweeper all the time. I don't know. I think I've won one game in my entire life I did too. I did. It was a long time ago. It was one game of the intermediate board, not the little board. Not the beginner board. It was the intermediate board, which is the bigger one, but not the expert one, not the big expert one. I won it once, and then I never played it again. I was so happy. Traversal abilities, but they don't affect your progress. Oh, yeah, so that's what I mean. What I mean is traversal abilities that affect your progress, that you need to be able to fly in order to move on in the level, stuff like that. Candy Crush Saga can be brutal with its RNG. But yeah, but that's all. I mean, that's all off topic. I mean, what we were talking about before was length of game. If you don't mind me going back to the length of games. But I think we're pretty much burned out on that topic. So I mean, RPGs seem to be the one that have the biggest what's the word I'm looking for? Not discrepancy. Just the biggest shift between length of games. There's 10-hour RPGs, there's 500-hour RPGs. There are not really 100-hour platform games. There are no 100-hour run and guns. There are no 100-hour beat 'em ups. You know what I mean? You can play it for 100 hours, absolutely. But as far as trying to complete the storyline, there are no 100-hour beat 'em ups. There are no I don't think there's any 100-hour Metroidvanias as far as I know. Looking forward to Classic Moon Bloodstained. I hope it's easier than Curse of the Moon 2. Yeah, Curse of the Moon 2, I stopped playing because there was a lot of crap in Curse of the Moon 2. A lot of dumb things, and I didn't want to play it on casual. I wanted to play it on veteran, but I'll probably go back and play it on casual. Used to get Sage a backpack with the window view. Oh, I know what you're talking about, Nurse. I've seen those. I always feel bad for the cats in those. I always feel bad because Sage likes to lounge. He likes to sit and lay down and walk around and stuff. So I always feel bad for the backpack cats. But I know that they're taken care of. I know that those backpacks for cats have like fans and stuff, and they're very cool, and they have little food pouches and everything. So I actually managed to order the Assassin's Creed Ezio for PS4, Ezio Collection for PS4. So I may jump into that one. I may jump into that. Okay, jump because he's assassin and he jumps. Okay, I got you. I don't mind action games going long. I replayed Zelda or Luigi's Mansion sequels. Well, remember, Kia, the question is also, is there such thing as too short? If somebody tells you, hey, this game is $40 and it's 5 hours long, is that too short? MM3 didn't really know what made MM2 so good. You get him a stroller. Soda, I could get him a stroller. I could get Sage a stroller. I pretty much stopped playing Circle of the Moon or Curse of the Moon 2. I might go back one day. I keep saying Circle of the Moon, and that was the one. That was the first GBA Castlevania, right? Was Circle of the Moon. If you're going for full-on completion, games like DMC and Bayonetta can take some time. Yeah, which is why I don't really complete those games. Yeah, Circle of the Moon was the first GBA one. Okay. I want to switch things up. Again, I don't have any pictures, so I apologize for that. But this is the viewer topic portion of the show. So if you... Here, we'll... actually, I do. Hold on. There we go. If you have any topics that you would like to discuss, any questions you would like to ask, this is also the Q&A portion of the show. So if you have anything you want to bring up, you gotta head out. Great topic. Looking forward to joining the talk later. Thank you, Tay. Thank you, Tay. Tay, right? Right? Yeah. Have a good one. Thank you for stopping, and thank you for the follow. Very much appreciate that. Fun fact: the devs of you're saying MM, is that Mega Man? Mega Man 3? No. Wait, no. Well, I don't. MM, I'm so lost. I think it also depends on whether you can play with someone. If I like to play Final Fight, but playing it alone makes me feel like makes the game feel longer. Okay, yeah, I see what you mean. Well, that's Gorilla. That's something that that's a good example. That's a good thing. I mentioned earlier that I don't really count competitive games because the competitive nature of games is a whole different beast. Co-op kind of changes everything too, in a way. How will Sonic die? How will Sonic die? Loud and fast. Any thoughts on Kamen Rider? Not really. Not really. The only Kamen Rider I watched was Masked Rider in the U.S. And I thought it was fun. I thought it was fun camp. But I never really got into the Super Sentai type shows. They were never really my cup of tea, other than like the OG Power Rangers. To be honest, though, I just didn't have a lot of experience with them. I didn't have a lot of exposure to them. How has your day been? Kia, my day has been weird. Man, there's a lot of weird things have gone on today. It's just so strange. Later, Mr. Sonic, have a good one. I don't know. It's just very strange. It was a very weird day for me. It's probably a little bit long to get into, but a lot of weird encounters. Oh, I'll tell you what I did have an interesting encounter with. I had an interesting encounter with a snack that was purchased for me. And I would like to share this snack with all of you. Not literally share. I just want to show it to you. This is something that I have questioned for a very long time. And I was very surprised that it actually exists. This is a bag of just Lucky Charms marshmallows. I was fascinated by this, and this was a gift that was given to me. So thank you. You know who you are. I love the marshmallows from Lucky Charms. So I had always said, dude, what if I just had like a bag of the marshmallows and I could snack on them, right? Not have a bowl of cereal. Like, I'm not going to pour these in a bowl of milk and then eat them, right? This is like a snack. Like you open the bag, you take some and you eat them, and that's what it is. It's kind of amazing. And at the same time, I had some earlier. You hit a threshold really fast with these. There's a reason that you're supposed to be eating, and they're Lucky Charms. These are legit Lucky Charms. This is not like marshmallow cereal pieces. This is Lucky Charms. The actual brand, General Mills. Where's the General Mills logo? General Mills logo on the back. General Mills right there. Yeah, it's pure sugar. It's pure, Marcos, it's pure sugar. But Pixie Sticks were pure sugar. Marshmallows, regular marshmallows that you use in s'mores are pure sugar. It's all pure sugar. Let's be honest here. Lollipops are pure sugar. Or as we call them, cavities on a stick. But yeah, they're delicious. But you hit a threshold really fast where you're getting a little queasy. Where you get a little queasy, like, oh, I think I ate too many marshmallows. I think that's what the milk and the cereal pieces are for. Put it in milk. Well, Sphere, I have cereal, so what I'll probably do is put some up. That's probably the best way to use them is to have cereal and then put marshmallows into the cereal so that you don't overdo it. That's a good way to use them. Ooh, I could use that with like cornflakes, dude. Like cornflakes with like a healthier cereal, but you throw some marshmallows in there. That's actually not a bad idea. I'm glad I thought of it. Have you heard about Fall Guys Season 2? No, they already announced a Season 2? I mean, I imagine they would. Fall Guys is like, it's like a weird juggernaut, right? It's if they add more to the game, if they keep the game feeling fresh, Fall Guys is going to last forever. Fall Guys is going to last a very long time. But yeah, just a weird day. Just a really weird day. To go back to that question. Sugar, my favorite breakfast. If you could convince someone to try out an RPG, doesn't matter the game, just the genre, what would you tell them? Why should they play RPGs? Oh, so I'm not trying to convince Atomic, not trying to convince somebody to play a specific RPG, but just RPGs in general. RPGs provide a level of story and provide a level of storytelling that isn't really possible in most other genres of games. Even adventure games where adventuring is the focus, you typically don't get as in-depth stories as you do in something like an RPG. An RPG usually involves a large cast of characters, so you have the opportunity to introduce people to a lot of different character types. You have stories that arc over many hours, which how long you want your RPG is debatable. Call back to earlier in the show. I got to go now. Have a great rest of the day. Thank you, Snore. Have a good one, Snore. Thank you so much for stopping in and for interacting with all of us. Very much appreciate that. So yeah, that's what I would say for RPGs. If you're trying to convince somebody to play RPGs, focus on the fact that they are longer, more involved stories. If somebody you know is looking to get into video games and they love reading, like they love books, I would point them right at RPGs. That's where I would say. I would not take a book reader, somebody who is an avid book reader, and tell them to play Call of Duty. Or tell them to even play Hollow Knight. Even something like Hollow Knight, which is a fantastic game. I wouldn't tell them to play something like that. I would move them toward... See, no. Soda, I would not point them towards either one of those franchises. Because, and I'm sorry, Pokemon fans, I'm sorry, but Pokemon games and Mario games in particular are not, to me, storyline heavy. Pokemon games are extremely focused on collectability. Mario games are more focused to me on the action, the activity of playing the game. RPGs to me are the games that are most focused on a long arcing storyline. So if you're talking to an avid book reader who says, hey, I would like to get into video games, what would you recommend? I would point them towards an RPG. Final Fantasy IV is the RPG that I always point people towards. Final Fantasy IV is the best introductory RPG outside of Final Fantasy Mystic Quest. I know we joke a lot about Mystic Quest, but I do think that Final Fantasy Mystic Quest, or Mystic Quest really, because it wasn't really a Final Fantasy game, I do think that's a great starting point for RPG players. For someone who's new to the genre completely, I would absolutely point them towards Mystic Quest. I thought it was a good enough storyline. I thought the action was good enough. I thought the music was fantastic. I thought the graphics were decent. I thought that there was enough there for you to decide whether or not this is something you want to get more involved in. Dragon Quest, I don't know. I don't know about Dragon Quest. Dragon Quest has a lot of, especially the earlier Dragon Quest games, have a lot of grinding. There's a lot of grinding in there. And I think that a new player, someone who's new to RPGs, is not going to like that aspect of it. Legend of Zelda. No. Legend of Zelda to me is action adventure. I don't count Legend of Zelda as RPG. I think my first RPG was technically Pokemon Gen 1 and then Paper Mario 64. Yeah, okay. So you said, so somebody said Pokemon and Mario. When I say Mario, I think the Mario platform games. Paper Mario to me is different. That's separate. If you're talking about Paper Mario, I would say specify Paper Mario, because if you say, hey, try out this RPG, it's a Mario game, you could be talking about Mario, New Super Mario Brothers. You could be talking about Mario Galaxy, or you could be talking about Paper Mario, and they are all Mario games, and they are all vastly different from each other. So you would need to specify the Paper Mario or the Mario and Luigi series. You want to kill some time over a summer? RPG. My friend compared Fall Guys to Roblox, and now I can't unsee it. That hurts my feelings. That hurts me deeply. I'm wounded. I tell you. Start with Mystic Quest. RPGs are like books. You can progress the plot at your own pace, except what you can't do with books that you can do with games, or you can do other stuff, and you can interact. Marcos, I think that's an important aspect. When you read a book and your heroes battle the villain, they battle the villain. When you play an RPG and your heroes battle the villain, you battle the villain. You win that victory. You have saved the world. That to me is more interesting. That's why I will play an RPG before I'll read a book any day. Books are fantastic. I'm not knocking books. I'm not knocking people that read books. But I can tell you right now that it is very difficult for me to get involved in reading a book unless I already know something about the subject or something about the storyline, and I'm able to springboard into the book with that previous knowledge. I did not read the Harry Potter books until I had already seen a few of the movies. And then later I got into the books, and it was easier for me to read the books. And I did read them all. It's easier for me to read the books having already seen some of the movie than if I had started fresh. My theater of the mind is good, but not great. The DS Dragon Quest games are good to start. Dragon Quest is more of an art. Yeah, Dragon Quest feels more like an RPG fans RPG. Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's how I see it anyway. When you say the name Mario to random people on the street, they think platformers. Yeah, and that's why I say like, it's a nitpick, but it's an important nitpick. Or it's an important distinction, I should say. When you say Mario and you're talking about RPGs, make sure you're specifying the Paper Mario or the Mario and Luigi games. Yeah, see, Roblox kind of reminds me of Minecraft. I think my first RPGs were Pokemon Gen 2 and Knights of the Old Republic. Audiobooks are a great alternative to actually reading it. Yeah, that's good. I think audiobooks are fantastic. I want a Clockwork Orange RPG. It can only go horribly wrong. The books are better. Marcos says, yeah, I have that t-shirt. I have a t-shirt that says the book was better. My first RPG was Kingdom Hearts, but those are more JRPGs. But they're RPGs. That's fine. RPGs, it's okay. Skyrim. When you talk about RPGs, Skyrim is fine. Skyrim is considered a Western RPG, which is fine. I think that totally is okay. I think that Skyrim is good for people who like RPGs but don't like menu-based combat. I think that's what they're for. I think that's a good distinction between one and the other. What about visual novels? Visual novels are an interesting sort of scenario. Like, we did this topic before. So Ty, I'll ask you, and I'll ask everybody here. Do you think visual novels count as video games? There's a distinction there. that needs to be made, because most visual novels have predetermined endings and will always lead you to one of those endings. So there's a question of, can you fail? Can you fail at a visual novel? Are there bad endings? You know, are there bad endings, or are there just different endings? You know what I mean? Sometimes there's not bad endings. Sometimes there's just different endings. Visual novel dating games, to me, I don't know that I consider them games in that sense, in that way, because any outcome you get in a visual novel usually is a correct outcome, with the exception of ending alone. When you talk about dating or visual novels, like romance visual novels and stuff, usually there's a bunch of people that you can try and choose from. And you end up with one of them. Maybe you've set a goal for yourself where you say, I want to end up with this person. I did not end up with them. I failed. But there's probably an ending where you don't end up with anybody, and that's usually considered the failure. So it's interesting. That's always an interesting thing. Hold on. Somebody said something that most visual novels have next to no gameplay. That's an important aspect of it, where it's not gameplay. You're just clicking through windows. You're just picking choices. So a lot of people won't consider them video games in that sense. They are visual. They're visual novels, but they're not video games. So there's a distinction there. That's an interesting. We talked about that a while ago too. Yeah, and Soda, I always associate visual novels as romance novels. Anything else to me, like if you talk about a visual novel that's that you can die in, right? Like it's a visual novel adventure. That's a choose your own adventure book. That's different. That's a different beast to me than a visual novel. I thought about mystery visual novels. Yeah, that to me becomes choose your own adventure. And there are mystery books, there are fantasy books, but that's what they are. They're choose your own adventure, and you can die. You can die in those. Those are kind of like video games, but there's no gameplay. There's no moving a character around. There's no item selection or anything like that. They're literally just, you choose predetermined things. Interactive media. They're interactive movies. That's pretty much what they are. They're so an interactive movie. Do you consider that a video game? If we streamed one day, and everybody's gonna say they want this the second I say it, if we did a stream one day where I said a story, right? Like I was telling you a story, and then I stopped the story. I'm making it up as I go, right? I stopped the story, and I say to you, God, this is actually a good idea now. I say to you, chat, let's put up a poll. When we get to the inn, what do we do? Do we go upstairs? Do we talk to the innkeeper? Do we talk to the people that are sitting there? Or do we leave? And then I put up a poll, and then you make a selection. And when you make the choice, you, the audience, make the choice. God, this is sounding like a better idea as I keep saying it. When you make the choice, I continue the story based on the thing that you chose. That's an interactive stream. But that's not a game. That's not a video game. That's not, there's no gameplay involved. You're literally just making a choice. Maybe your choice gets picked, maybe it doesn't, based on what the poll results are. But I then continue the story. Okay. So here's the thing. It's D&D. That's because that's what everybody's saying. Like it's sort of like D&D, but it's not D&D because D&D is a game. D&D is a game where you make the choices yourself. Because I would not be telling you, hey chat, what do we do? I would be saying, hey chat, these are your 4 choices. You pick one. In D&D, you can do whatever you want. I have heard wild stories about D&D choices. I have heard amazing things. I still think one of the most amazing things that I ever heard was the story of the guy that he's going to get sacrificed to the dragon. So then he sacrifices the people that have captured him, and it works. The one story I heard was that a guy's limb got cut off as part of the adventure, as part of the battle, and then he asked the dungeon master if he was allowed to pick up his limb and use it as a blunt weapon. And it's like, these are choices that DMs would probably never expect. Yeah, Twitch plays text adventures. Mendez, it really sounds like a good idea, man. It really kind of does. Hotel Dusk. Do I have that? Hold on. No. Oh, I do. I have Hotel Dusk, but I only have the cart. I don't have the box and instructions for it. I do have that. Yeah, if you have a good DM, otherwise it's Railroad City. Yeah, see, you know what's funny? I've never played D&D. I've wanted to play D&D for a very long time, and I've never been able to play it. Maybe one of the few times that I might have had a chance, nobody wanted to DM and we didn't have one. I think I'd be a really good dungeon master. I actually think I'd be a really good dungeon master because I think I'm pretty good at making up stories as I go along. I'm pretty good at thinking of things on the fly. I think I'd be a pretty good DM. It's like one of those text adventure games. Yeah, absolutely. Valhalla is actually one of my favorite, and that's a visual novel. I was interested in Valhalla until I found that it was a visual novel, and I wanted something a little bit more involved. Only gameplay you get is making drinks at a bar. I had the Adventures of Sage the Destroyer. Hotel Dusk is amazing. Is the sequel any good? I never played the first one either. It'd be pretty easy to do. Blam, it'd be really easy to do if I just make the story up as I go. I would probably write a story first and then see where the story goes. You know, like I would probably have an outcome that's bad. And then, you know, the other, like I would want everybody to get to the end of the story all the way through. But it would be a question of, do you get the outcome that you want? God, this sounds like a really good idea. Playing D&D with my nephews, I can say. They ask to do things, and 80% of the time I'm like, what? I mean, I guess. Right? Dragoon, I watched a video where, I think it was a video that I was watching, and the guy got his girlfriend to play a game. I forget what game it was. I think it was Uncharted. I think it was one of the Uncharted games. And she doesn't play video games. So he wanted her to play this game. He was going to help her through it. But he wanted her to play this game to see what a non-gamer thinks of that kind of game. And he said that he was amazed because she was getting frustrated that she was coming up with scenarios that the game was not letting her do because it was not programmed to do it. Like she would try and get and we've all made the joke, right? Oh, the door is locked and I need to find a key to get through the door. But then there's a window right next to the door. And we as gamers know you have to go and you have to find a key. But a non-gamer would probably look at that. A D&D player would probably look at that and say, can I break the window and climb through the window? Whereas a gamer is going to say, they're going to know right off the bat, no, the game is telling you to find a key, so you have to go and find a key. And that's the thing with a lot of very open world type games is that you're getting more and more of this aspect of, wow, I can sort of do it however I want. I don't know how good this would stream, but I always was a fan of the Professor Layton series. I've seen people do Professor Layton streams. Professor Layton streams do really good. Metagaming. But you couldn't find it because it was Uncharted. I'm more down for Twitch plays D&D. How is that not a channel? I would be really surprised that that's not a channel. So Mendez, I guess the problem is that it can't be a channel because D&D has so many options. Because how do you decide who to listen to when you're going to make a choice? When the DM tells you, okay, you're your wanderer, you are the hero. You're wandering down a path, and there are two soldiers coming your way. They seem to be wearing colors that are not of your original land, but they don't seem to be a hostile land either. They're not one of the known hostile lands. What do you do? How do you go to the chat and pick the choice for what to do? The best way to do it would be a list of predetermined options, and then you let the chat choose through polls. That would be the best thing to do. God damn, this is really sounding like a better idea all the time. To play D&D, you just need at least 2 people. Yes, and I'm always one person short. I remember these gates in Darksiders 2 where you can easily walk through the bars, but nope, you gotta go solve the puzzle. Absolutely, Uncle. And also Uncle streams and DMs D&D on Twitch. This is sounding like a good idea, man. How about a D&D session with your nephews? The only one that seems to be interested in D&D is Elliot, and we just never did it. I don't think he's a DM, so he doesn't like DMing. How do you pick up something other than... So then I started blasting, and that's sort of the problem. Keldeo in the hunt with the Twitch Prime sub, or Tier 1 sub, I'm sorry. Thank you so much. Subscribe for 7 months, currently on a 7-month streak. Thank you so much, Keldeo. Welcome, 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 welcome. Wing Zero. Somebody probably hasn't told you, so I will let someone else tell you. Sounds like a good idea. Also, one of those plot threads only exists to set up a new series that was ultimately never made. Oh, it's something else. Okay. Matt. Yeah. Thank you so much, Gildeo. Very much appreciate that. Yeah. God damn, this is sounding like a good idea. Oh my God, we may have to do this. I may have to write up a campaign and then. Actually, you can play D&D online using Tabletop Simulator if distance is the main problem. Distance is the main problem. I always wanted to play in person. I always thought playing in person would be a much more fun option. At this point, I'm ready to not play in person just because I want to just try it. But I would still really rather play in person. But I mean, with COVID the way it's going, and with America the way it's going, America's basically going to be boxed in from COVID for the next 5 years. So it might have to, right? Oh, the Silver Dungeon. Ooh. No, the Silver Mine. The Silver Mine. Oh my God, I'm really liking this idea. If I suddenly decide to stop being a lazy ass, I may actually do this. I only started D&D because my nephews wanted to play it. Found the book 3 set, or the 3-book set on Amazon for 40, which I have. I think I have that. No, I have just the player's manual. I don't have the monster guide or the dungeon master guide. This is my time. My phone's about to die. I'll catch you guys later. Later, Ty. Have a good one. I do miss DMing. I do it from time to time with Sis, but a big group is hard, especially with time setting and having stars bloody aligned. Yeah, absolutely. Sliner, that's probably the biggest obstacle for people playing D&D in the adult years, is actually physically getting together. That's always the biggest option. You just need a second player. Soda, the only second player I need is the chat. You all are my second player. You're my co-host for the stream. If I did something like that, all I would need is the chat. I bought a D&D starter set. I haven't used it. Bobo, do you have the Lost Mines of Phandelver? Is that the starter set that you have? Patent that. Trademark it. D&D is something I always wanted to do, but never had friends to do it with. Yeah, absolutely. It's somber. It's really sad. Like, right? I feel so sad that that's a thing. You know, when people talk about nerds, they talk about nerds and geeks, and you know, when I grew up, nerds and geeks were like, oh, look at a sad, lonely nerd with no friends to hang out with. How much of a sad, lonely nerd that I don't have friends to hang out with and play Dungeons and Dragons with? Arguably the nerdiest thing there is to do. You only really need the player's manual and probably the monster manual. The DM book is mostly just a lot of a good DM may do this. Yeah, Lost Mines was the first campaign I ran with my nephews. I bought the Lost Mines campaign because it's a starter set, thinking, oh, this is cool. I'll bring it to. I brought it one year to TMG. I brought it to too many games thinking, oh, when we're in the room, we can try and do this. Sabrina and Elliot know how to play the game. They can help us through it. Nobody wanted to play it. I had it in my box, and I took it out, and 3 days later, I put it back in the box because nobody wanted to play it. I'm part of 2 campaigns. I'm a human wizard in one and a human fighter in the other. I don't think they would let me choose the character that I wanted to play. I worry that I get too creative. I always wanted to play a half elf, half dwarf. And I don't even know if that's possible. But yeah, I always wanted to play a half elf, half dwarf. I remember one of my friends tried doing a campaign using the story of Final Fantasy Tactics, and it got sent off track when one of the players stole Argus's crossbow before he could kill Delita's sister, not knowing how the story happened. Fantastic. That's not uncommon. And I actually messed up with one character and ended up adding a new element to the campaign because they assumed it was on purpose. Looking at the product online, I moved and don't know where the set is. The adventure book is, yeah, it's Lost Mine of Phandelver. I have that. I have that set. A reminder, this discussion started with cereal. Yes, it did. This all started with cereal. Nick Cobra, welcome to the Silver Lining. This is us. This is us 100%. We're actually running over it too. D&D is about making it your adventure. You can always make homebrew rules. Yeah, and that's fine. And that's the thing. But Sliner, I want to play just because I want to learn the basics. I want to learn the fundamentals. I can't make a D&D story without understanding how the fundamentals of that kind of storytelling work. I can tell whatever story I want, but I need to tell a story that is capable of being interactive. And I need to tell a story that is capable for me to evolve into more. Because if I tell this story, and I know this happens, I know that any of you that play D&D and have DM before, this happens. You probably have this whole intricate story, and then the characters that are playing don't want to go that way. You wander down the road, and you see a castle off in the distance on the way to your town. What do? And then you've got this whole thing planned out for the castle, and then your friends, your adventurers say, well, let's just go to the town. Shit. Damn it. You can't break the rules of storytelling without knowing what the rules of storytelling are. Yeah, pulls out a shotgun. Well, like, wait, you can do that? I sure can now. Yeah. Look at that canyon down there. Should we go? Let's keep flying. Yeah, I see a town. I see a castle, but the town is right there, and I'm kind of lazy. And then that happens, and then you're sitting there like, when you get to the town, and then you as the DM are like, when you get to the town, there's a sudden explosion, and it comes from the direction of the castle. You're like, all right, looks like we're going to the castle. That would be me. That would be my ultimate. My ultimate thing would be like, everywhere you try and go that isn't this one place gets destroyed, so you have to go there. You see a female elf in a bar. No, you cannot seduce her. Stop trying, Bard. No, Atomic. And that's what would happen. You see a female elf at the bar. She looks very dangerous, and it's been noted that if anybody tries to speak with her and fails miserably, she kills them on the spot. I try to romance her. Roll a 1. You die. Campaign over. Congratulations. Yeah, that explosion sounds scary. I don't want to go there. By the way, the Michael Bay Transformer is really that bad? I don't think so. I think the first one was fine. I think the second one was kind of atrocious. I thought the third one was really good. And then I never saw any of the ones after. I didn't see Extinction. What is it? Extinction and The Last Night. And I didn't see that Bumblebee movie either. I heard Bumblebee was actually really good. Sphere, I'm head out. Thank you so much, Sphere, for stopping in. I very much appreciate it. Yeah, we're going to wrap up here in a second. My favorite part of DMing is asking, did you say that out loud or in character? Let's see. Yeah. Okay. All right. So yeah, why don't we wrap up now? Hold on a second here. Boom. So we're gonna wrap up now. thank you everybody for stopping in and for hanging out. I very, very much appreciate it. This is my favorite show of the week, and I'm happy to share with all of you. I'm sorry we only had the one main topic, but I feel like we filled up a lot of explosion. Yeah, Sombra, I kind of thought about that too when I said explosion in Castle. But thank you. I very much appreciate everybody. I think we squeezed a lot out of those topics. All right, I think we're okay here. I had my invisible nephew yell out, "What?" in the middle of a group of baddies. So I very much appreciate that. If you're new to the channel here and you have not done so yet, please go ahead and click follow. That would be very much appreciated. And if you are inclined to do so, please go ahead and click subscribe. That would be very helpful. If you've got a Twitch Prime sub, you can use that here for free also. Also, check the links down below and follow us over on YouTube and Twitter. Hold on, I have buttons for those things. Follow me over on YouTube, which is where I am supposed to be uploading VODs of this show and other VODs, and I never do it. And follow over on Twitter, which is where I post updates about what we're going to be doing, what we're going to be streaming, what we're going to be talking about when we do this show. We also have a Discord channel, so if you want to go ahead and follow that, get into the Discord and hang out with a lot of very, very cool people. I think they're very cool anyway, and at the very least, they were smart enough to click yes and join our Discord, so that's a good thing. If you're watching this on YouTube, that means that I finally got around to uploading this episode, so congratulations to me. And also go ahead and check the links down below. Follow us over on YouTube, follow us over on Twitch. I don't have a link for that, where we do this show live for Fridays, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. And we also stream Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. And those are different gameplays. So be sure to stop there and give those a follow and join us for all the good stuff, because I love chat. I love interacting with the chat. I know that there are a lot of streamers out there, not to throw anybody under any kind of streaming bus, but I know there are a lot of streamers out there that don't interact with their chat very much. And then there's me, who likes to, the chat as my co-host. So I very much appreciate that. But have a good one, everybody. Take care of yourselves. Have a good weekend. Play some fun games. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And I will see you all next time.
Your ideas are intriguing to me, and I wish to subscribe to your newsletter.